Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back, or welcome to another Bangs audio review. If anybody out there is a GoPro expert, please let me know. I'm having some serious issues with the audio. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what I'm doing to fix it. I don't know why it's not working. But at least I've learned my lesson now, and I'm at least doing a check before I start the whole video because honestly, I don't know, it wasn't working, and I did the network change, and I shut everything off and turn it back on, real IT stuff. And all of a sudden it just magically started working. I hope, anyway. This is like, if there's no audio on this, I'm going to freaking lose it. I'll take the Stellaris out to the parking lot with a 2-pound hammer and take my frustration out on the poor Stellaris. Sorry, Stellaris. Okay, assuming that we have audio, let's move forward. Today's victim, the Tansio Mirai, or the TSMR Shock, which is a 2DD 4BA 2 bone conduction unit. I guess that's a tribrid technically, but 8 drivers per side. So yeah, I think there's enough drivers per side. Not that driver count really, it's overrated to an extent, obviously. It's more about the quality than it is the quantity. But I'm pretty sure every single driver in this set is pretty high quality, based on my experience with it. I'd like to thank Rogue Gorilla for sending me this set for review. Thank you very much, my friend. This has been an absolute pleasure. I will be sorry to see them go, but I'm sure that you miss them, and so they will be headed back to you shortly. He also loaned me the Supermoon from Campfire Audio, so that's going to be a fun comp. I'm going to do it with the Arty T10. I'm going to do it with the S12 2024 just for some added spice, and yeah, see how 60 and 100 or 60 versus 200 versus 1,000 should be an interesting comp. Later this week, that's due out on Friday. Friday's video will be my last review for probably 10 days, because I'm thinking by the time we go camping, get back from camping, I have time to work with the next set. Although that set will probably go with me camping. So maybe not more than a week or so, but we'll see how it goes. It's going to be a little while, so hang in there. For today, we have the Shock, and I'm not going to say I could make 8,000 dad jokes regarding, the Shock, but I'm not going to, because I'm going to try my best not to. It's probably going to happen. This is the LA Chargers logo, by the way, which showed up shortly after the Shock did, so that doesn't really have anything to do with that, but it is appropriate. I picked, if anybody's wondering, I don't live in LA. I've never been to LA. Never been to San Diego, which is where they were before. I picked them out when I was 8 years old, 1979, because, well, they had Dan Fouts, Kellen Winslow Sr., Charlie Joyner, Chuck Muncie, Gary Big Hands Johnson. There's the names go on and on. They were just a really fun, exciting team to watch, and they had lightning bolts on their uniforms, and I've always been kind of obsessed with lightning ever since it struck about 20 feet from my camper when I was like 4 years old. So yeah, I'm a Lightning fan. That's why I guess I like the Tampa Bay Lightning too. Doesn't really matter where the team's from. If they have lightning in their uniforms, I'm kind of all about them. Okay, enough rambling. The Shock retails for $600, regular retail price, making this set the most expensive set that I have reviewed to date. That will of course change with the Supermoon, which regular retail is $1,000. So, but anyway, yeah, definitely the highest end set that I've tried in price. So let's see if it stacks up in sound to that, for me, most of us, fairly extravagant price point. That will be the question that we'll try to answer today. In case you're wondering, this is not the stock cable. I'll show you that in a minute. This is the Ruby Cat from Nice HCK. Rogue has some complaints which I agree with on the stock cable. It's not sonic complaints. It's kind of comfort complaints. So, buddy, for lending me this, I'm sending you the Ruby Cat back. It is a 4.4 termination for you, balanced termination. Hopefully you will find this more comfortable, I did, to wear than the stock cable. So that's a thank you. That's a thank you gift for Rogue for sending me the set. On to the specs. The specs are as follows, if I have them up still. Driver configuration, as I mentioned, 2 DDs, 4 BAs, 2 bone conduction, frequency response 5 Hz to 40 kilohertz. Obviously, hearing range would be from 20 Hz to 20 kilohertz, unless you're a dog, which, who knows. If you've got dog hearing, let me know. I would love to talk to you about that and see what happens in those frequencies above 15K that I can no longer hear. Silver-plated oxygen, or OCC. I always forget what that means, but it's like oxygen something crystal copper. Probably single crystal copper. And the impedance is low, which does affect the gear that you should be using with these. 10 ohms on that and 102 on the sensitivity. These are not super easy to drive. They were not agreeable to really any of my dongle DACs outside of the Dunu DTC 800. For some reason, they did not get along at all with the Onyx Alpha from Shanling. And I think that's more about the Onyx Alpha than it is about the Shock. I think that I need to either update them or roll back an update that I tried to do or something, but my Onyx Alpha is not behaving. It sounds kind of muddy, and that makes me kind of mad because it wasn't cheap. Anyway, my problems. I'll try to figure it out. Let you know when I do. You've got the nozzle diameter, 6.4 millimeters, so she's a little wide, and the height of 5 millimeters, so not super deep. You'll see that. I did use the Divinus Velvet tips on these. This is 3D printed resin, by the way. Very nice quality. Faceplate, obviously, you've got the tuning dials on. The yellow is for the bass, and the brown, which kind of looks black, but is for treble. And they have notches along the way, so you can literally, like, you can match them. I mean, I cheated a little bit using the coupler to get them as spot on as I possibly could, but if you stick to the notches, you're going to get good channel balance. So they recommend that. In fact, more than recommend it when you look up the set on their site. Basically, they're like, match them, or you're not going to get the best experience. And I would say that's probably true, right? All right, so what else? I don't think it did say anything about who made the drivers. Maybe if I go to Penon. Let's see. I sent them a nice little note regarding these and sent them my graph. A little show off, like, look at how close I got these. Description. Let's see here. So, all right, so it's 2 8mm dynamics. No branding on the BAs, but they sure sound good. And oh, here we go. There we go. All right, so we've got Knowles balanced for mid, Sonian balanced for high, 2 of each of those, and then a Sonian bone conduction driver for full frequency compensation. The interesting thing about this, when I was doing the testing, is that it seemed to me that the bass dial, if you had the bass dialed up, meaning closer to counterclockwise than clockwise, you could actually hear the bone conduction drivers sort of vibrating the shell a little bit. Not like it was, a flaw or anything. You could hear them kick in during the, frequency sweep. So they definitely do affect the bass, I think, most of all. Anyway, there we go. So there are your specs. Build, again, I said 3D printed resin and comfortable but big. All right, so these are big boys. They're not going to fit in small ears. They're not going to be comfortable for people with small ears. You can still get them in there, but you're probably going to get some fatigue, physical fatigue from them after a while. I didn't really have that problem with them, but I could see it being a problem for people with smaller ears. So, and again, Divinous Velvet's the way I went because I got the best seal and sonics out of it. I don't think they're super sensitive to the bore width necessarily, although because there are those acoustic tubes coming out, 3 of them, I might recommend medium to wider versus narrow, because you don't really need to clamp down on any treble frequency with these. You can just adjust it with the dials to your liking. All right, let's. Oh yeah, quick. The unbox is super quick. All right, so yeah, there's a sleeve, there's a box, and then there's a bunch of bags and a card. So included tips are good. Didn't use them as usual, but it's sort of standard. No pen and L tips in there. Sorry guys, that unless they came with them and Rogue didn't send them to me because he's using them or has used them, whatever. But not that I'm aware of. You get your brush, and most importantly of all, the thing that I did not manage to lose is this tiny, teeny, tiny little screwdriver, so you can make those adjustments to the dials. And I did try to use my screwdriver set there, but even the smallest flathead was not small enough to adjust the dials, so rather than wrecking the faceplate, I decided to just use the stock screwdriver. There you go. And here's the case. And here's the stock cable. There we go. Stock cable, yeah, it's a little stiff. The ear hooks are also stiff. Certainly, like, quality-wise, it's a nice cable. I will, say that. It feels nice, but it's just, I think these ear hooks are just kind of weird. And for me, and I think for Rogue too, they were just not comfortable. So I used a variety of cables. I even threw on the nuclear copper for fun, but they didn't really seem to make any difference sonically, and they looked funny with the fuchsia shell, so I removed them. And just went primarily with stock and with the Ruby Cat from Nice HCK for my listening, and out of respect and safety, because I didn't want to have to spend $600. They did not go mowing. They did not go to the pool. They did not do anything. They haven't left the basement, basically, since I got them. That's just out of respect for somebody else's property. So I wish I could tell you about, they didn't go to the grocery store, anything like that. So I wish I could tell you about sound isolation from my guess. They're pretty good, but I didn't really have a heck of a lot going on in the background when I was testing them. So anyway, the jury's still out on their sound isolation. I'm assuming it's fairly good. Case is nice, certainly spacious enough if you want to have a couple of cables, if you want to have a powerful dongle DAC like DTC 800, like 480 and above, please, to get the full performance out of them. I found that they sounded the best with the R2R from Theo, like really, really, really good with that one. They were okay with the slightly flatter feel of the K11. They were more than okay. They were about the same, put it that way. Phenomenal. In other words, iFi Zendak V2 also worked well. I mean, there wasn't anything that had some power to it that they didn't agree with. What they didn't agree with were the lower powered dongle DACs, like EPZ. It was okay with the EPZ. It wasn't great, but you could just tell it was kind of like missing a little dynamics, a little bit of sort of immersion with that. That's about it. God, now I can finally get into how I feel about them, how they sounded to me. So let's bring up this graph here. As I mentioned in the community post, this is the setting that was as close as to what Rogue sent them to me, like where they were set. I think I misrepresented that in my first post. It wasn't like 1 and 2.5. It's like 3/4 of the way to the first notch and on the second notch. So for the treble. So on the bass, 3/4 of the way to the first notch. On the treble, 1 notch. And that is what presented this graph, this channel balance, this beautiful, thick, full, natural, amazing, immersive sound with tons of detail, like tons of detail. So, as you go up in price, you would hope that, right? The two things that I hope for are, outside of beautiful bass, two things that I hope for are clarity and finesse. And I'm talking about mostly in the, ear gain to the treble, upper mids to the treble. That's where I want to be like, so smooth. Yeah. And they are. Um, Tiny, 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 tiniest little bit of BA timbre in the very, very upper end. But again, I say that, but it's not hissy, it's not tizzy, it's not. It's crystalline. That's the word I like. It's like it's not even glittery because glittery sounds like it's got an edge to it. There ain't no edge to it. So a little shimmery, little tiny, and definitely like a crystalline kind of presentation, meaning clear and beautiful. They are not the most immersive set that I've had in my ears, but I didn't find that to be a flaw. It's not like you want to like be like in this sort of weird space all of the time. To me, what it does technically and musically far outweighs what it doesn't do insofar as soundstage. Um, and not to say that it doesn't have soundstage. It definitely has some width, oh for sure, and it definitely has some height and depth to it. It's just not massive, you know. If you're looking for massive soundstage, this isn't going to be your set. But I'm kind of like, who cares? It doesn't matter to me one bit because you've got imaging, you've got layering, you've got separation, you've got detail retrieval, you've got enough soundstage where you feel immersed in the music. It's just not overwhelming, and that's okay. Um, it didn't. There wasn't a genre that it had trouble with. So everything from the most delicate, like Feng Lu, like with the Chinese guitar and flute stuff happening, to opera, to orchestral, to jazz, quartets, quintets, big band. I mean, it just flew through everything. Your pop, your rock, your alt rock, your hard rock, your metal. God, it's a beautiful set for metal. Oh. I mean, when I was doing the DX one, I was like, yeah, I can listen to this now that my ears have adjusted to it, and I can definitely still enjoy even the heaviest metal that I listen to. But that took an adjustment because of where the mids were, just the overall tuning of it. There's no adjustment necessary on this once you've got those dials adjusted to where you want them. And, this is the preferred tuning for me, I think for Rogue too. But that doesn't mean there aren't other availability or, other tunings available. So you can knock the treble down, you can knock the bass down. Like there's basically, I mean, almost limitless. Like, look at this. This is, if you want more vocal, more treble, you can have it. So endless. It's like Minecraft, endless worlds, endless possibilities, or something like that. Um, but this is where I found it to be just about perfect. And for me, it is the best set that I've ever listened to. And that I have listened to the Supermoon now, so that includes the Supermoon. Um, can you call it a value at $600? No, you can't. But if you were to stack it up against $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 sets, I would imagine that it's going to hold its own pretty well. Now, what would hold it? What would hold its own against this that I've tried? Um, it was definitely like there were like three sets I felt kind of came close to it without being as good. Um, the Fan 3 was one. but the Fan 3 is a little bit skewed towards treble. Doesn't have the just rich, delicious, amazing bass that the bass on this set is. I just can't even, you know. But overall, like performance wise, it doesn't. The Fan 3 does not come. It comes close to this, but it's not like close enough to be like, yeah, the Fan 3 is as good as the Shock. It's not. It's not. You know. Other one, the DMA, and the DMA is still. I think that if I now had a favorite set that I personally own, it's gonna be the BGVP DMA. I think I was actually able to separate from the pack, that one from the pack, because of how well it did hold up to something that's twice its price. How well it did hold up to the Shock. It held up really, really well. Is it as good as the Shock? No, it doesn't. It just doesn't have the Shock has something I've never experienced before, and it's really hard for me to describe what it is. But it's just amazing. And the DMA is close, but it's not there, guys. Now, you know, let's keep this in perspective. The DMA is 300, the Shock is 600. Is the Shock twice as good as the DMA? No fucking way. Okay, let's be real about it, okay? We're talking about degrees, like incrementally better than the DMA. But not like hands down blows it away. Just, you know, I think as you go up in price, those increments get smaller and smaller as better. But it is noticeably better. It does noticeably, like, everything from the bottom to the top of the frequency spectrum better. You'll know it. If you ever get them in your ears, you'll know it. You'll be like, holy shit. Which is exactly what I said when I put these in for the first time. I was like, holy shit. He wasn't kidding about how good these are. Yeah, they're definitely an endgame set, I think, for a lot of people. For me, I will be saving for them. Like, without, you know, hopefully not, like, taking money away from the channel, because that's my first priority. But when I can set a little aside here, a little aside there, I'm going to set aside a little account for it, maybe some of the YouTube revenue that I get, which is like $100 every 3 months, so that's going to take a while. I will be saving up for the Shock. Even if I don't have it, like 2 years from now, I'll still be saving. You know, if it takes 2 years, I should say, I'll still buy it when I get to that number. Maybe I can find one used in good condition, like I did with the KE4. Maybe I can find one, you know, that's like an open box or something like that and save some money that way. But I'm going to own the Shock. I'm going to own the Shock because the Shock's the best set that I've ever tried. Hands down, period, end of story. It is an endgame set. And I know you can spend 2, 3, 4, 5 times the amount, and you probably get little bits better. Little bits better. Maybe noticeably. Maybe. I don't know how much better it can get than this, guys. And the fact that you can tune it really to your preference, and it doesn't hurt how they sound, like it doesn't hurt their performance, that's super impressive. So, yeah, as if you didn't know already, highly, highly, highly recommended. Top recommendation, best set that I've ever had. Yes, it's $600. Yes, I understand that is out of reach for a lot of people, myself included at the current moment. But they're worth it. And that's where we're going to leave it. So, as I mentioned earlier, the next review is going to be a review/comp with the $1,000 Campfire Supermoon, the $60 RDT10, and the $200 Letour S12 2024. That'll be Friday, and then it'll be camping time. So, until then, be careful, be safe, be nice. Love y'all. Nothing but peace to you. See you soon.